Let me give you another example. When I was teaching in North America, in one class, second year university, average age was 19. I walked into the classroom, 35 people, co-ed, mother tongue English. All of them, I knew their parental background, and their parents were in secure jobs, either government jobs or some other job, but basically none of them was an industrialist or a businessman or an entrepreneur. They were all in a secure job. I walked in the classroom. On one piece of paper, I had written 25 proverbs in English. English language has about 1,000 proverbs plus. Oxford University already has published 1,000 proverbs list of English language. Out of these, I picked up 25. I walked into the classroom and I told these guys, I said, listen, I got 25 proverbs in this piece of paper. I wanted to take 5 minutes and write down 5 proverbs in English. And then we will make a compilation. 35 by multiplied by 5 is 175. Out of which we will remove the ones which are repeated. Any one of them who has a new proverb which is not on my list of 25, I give you $100 to have a party. So they got very excited. They started writing. At the end of the exercise, we eliminated ones that were repeated. We had 23 proverbs. Each one of them, ladies and gentlemen, was on my list beforehand, which is 100% predictability, better than any astrologer I know in India. Now, what kind of proverbs did they write? Look before you. What is it? All of you know that, right? A rolling stone, a bird in the hand. Now, what does it suggest? What is the underlying theme in all these proverbs? What is the underlying theme? No risk. Don't want to take risk. And what was their parental conditioning? They were all in secure jobs. So security was the major concern and no risk was the... I was brought up the same way. I also knew rolling stone gathers no more, even if I didn't know English. One day I was bathing in Sabarmati river in Ahmedabad, which was the safest river in the world. There's rarely any water there. And I contacted something I did not like. So I turned to a friend of mine, I said, what is this? He said, that is moss. And I suddenly realized that by not rolling, this is what I'm supposed to collect, which I don't even like. So I went to one of my teachers. I was very fortunate, ladies and gentlemen. I had 6 good teachers in my life. You got one today. So I went to this teacher. She was a lady from Kerala, Catholic lady from Kerala. Her name was Mrs. Weir. So I went to Mrs. Weir and I said, Mrs. Weir, this first time I found out what moss is, and I've always heard rolling stone gathers no moss. This is what I'm supposed to collect my rod rolling? She started laughing. She patted me on the back and said, Rushi, start rolling. You may not collect moss, but you will certainly get polished. Changed my life. A simple twist on that sentence. And that's what it's all about. How you are conditioned and how you break out that condition. See, part of it, I give you another example how we are. We are conditioned just like animals. You know, one time I was talking to a linguist and he said, what do you do? I said, I train corporate people. He says, you train animals, you don't train, you educate human beings. So I say in corporate jungle, they're all animals, so this is okay. So the point is, how are we trained? And I give you an example. When I was 11 years old, there was a circus, and that's all we could afford. So I go to this circus, and outside in the ground, the ferocious animals were in the cages, but outside there this big elephant tied to a little nail on the ground. And there was a baby elephant tied to a trunk of a tree. So to a kid of 11, this was the obvious mistake. The huge elephant is tied to a nail on the ground and the small one is tied to a trunk of a tree. So I went into the tent and I said, I want to talk to the manager. So the clown was very amused. So he took me to the manager. He said, what is it, son? I said, sir, would you please come outside? So he was intrigued, so he came out. I said, sir, your people have committed a mistake. He says, what's the mistake? I said, this huge elephant is tied to a nail on the ground and the baby one is tied to the trunk. It should be the other way around. He started laughing. He said, come inside. Took me back and he said, sit down, kid. So I sat down. That circus manager, ladies and gentlemen, gave me my first lesson in behavioral psychology. He said, we train them like that. When this little one is tied to a trunk of a tree, tries to run away, tries as high as possible. By the time he grows up, he gives up. And that's what happens to us. I want all of you to know, just a little nail on the ground, little jerk, and you're free. As simple as that. But in our head, the boundaries are still there. And that's what you got to transcend. And that's what it's all about. Assertiveness provides you that option. Assertiveness also does one more thing, and that is, it keeps you from exploitation and manipulation. There are three ways or three major tools used for manipulation: guilt, conformism, and ignorance. Guilt, conformism, and ignorance. Guilt is the most prevalently used in our country. Mother tells the daughter, if you do not marry the boy I have chosen for you, I will commit. All of you know the line, right? I don't have to say. If you love me, you will do this for me. If you are a gentleman, you will do this. All this is to manipulate you by making you feel guilty, or is known also as emotional blackmail. Other one is ignorance. They make you, all the newspapers and magazines sell based on this. If you want to be intelligent, you got to read this. Every intelligent person reads it. So the point is, it appeals to your ignorance, that makes you think that if I want to be intelligent, this is what I'm supposed to do. So that's the sales pitch. The third one is conformism, which is a favorite of all ad people. Everybody is smoking this brand of cigarette, therefore you should. Everybody is using this soap, therefore you should. Everybody is doing this, therefore you should. Making you race with the Joneses, as they say in America. Race with the Joneses. This is the third tool. Now, how soon we learn how to manipulate? So let me give you a brief psychological background. Freud, who is one of the most hated and loved persons of last century, 1856 to 1939, he contributed greatly to the developmental psychology. He divided the development up to a lesson into 5 major groups. And the first 15 months roughly is known as oral stage of development. We are today concerned with the second stage. I give you the first stage just for the sequence purpose. First 15 months of a child is known as oral stage of development, to mean that when you give anything to that kid at that age, he relates it to his mouth, through his mouth. You give him a toy to play with, he sucks on it. He sucks on his thumb. He picks up a lump of clay and puts it in his mouth. You know, even Lord Krishna picked up a lump of clay and he put it in his mouth. And Yashoda said, what are you doing? Open his mouth. Look the universe inside. So this is all through the mouth. At that time, during this first 15 months of his life, he has no control over his muscles, which means he urinates and defecates anytime, any place. Shakespeare said, all the world is a stage. Little kid thinks all the world is a toilet. So when you're up to age of 15 months, you pick up your kid about to go to office and hello, and right on your shoulder. You know. So second 15 months is the anal stage of development, when the child is given toilet training. When to go and where to go. You teach him to control himself, that he has to go at a particular time at a particular place. In Mumbai, it is decided by Bombay municipality. When the water is going to come. You know. Right? So, this is how it, so at that time, just because till yesterday he could do it anywhere on the carpet, on the bedroom, anywhere, now he has to do a particular place, uske liye jagah muqarrar ki gayi, wahin par jana hai bhaiya. So, he is confused. It takes time. So, imagine one such day, ladies and gentlemen, that little Ramesh has not gone. He's supposed to go at 10 in the morning, it's already 5:30 in the evening. Parents have to go to listen to my lecture. Say, Ramesh, please go. Nope. Ramesh, please, we are getting late. So the father comes into action. Ramesh, if you go, I give you 2 Cadbury bars. Suddenly, little Ramesh realizes something that he manufactures, which was supposed to be waste product, turns out to be a negotiable instrument. And being from Ahmedabad, he said, give me 5 Cadbury bars, I might consider. So he learns how to negotiate. So by that early in age, he learns how to manipulate the parents or any authority figure in his life. So by the time we grow up, we become expert. So we become expert at manipulating people and exploiting right from the childhood. You know, children ask for the things mother does not give, particularly when the guests arrive. Huh? All the mothers will vouch for that. You know, Mommy, can I have this? And all the guests' eyes are looking at the mother. You know, now what is she going to do? And she says, oh, what would they think of me? Am I a good mother? Am I not? So the point is, they learn. And we grow up, we become experts. Now, if you do not want to get manipulated, what do you do? As I said, this has to do also with, because as I mentioned, assertiveness is based on two disciplines, communication and behavioral psychology. So here is the communication part comes in. That you learn to listen in between lines and you do not get dragged into situations where you will get manipulated. So let me give you a simple model of this, which is known as game triangle or drama triangle. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a triangle. There are three angles, RVP, Rooshikumar Pandya. R stands for rescuer, V for victim, P for persecutor. Rescuer, victim, persecutor. If you think about it, it's a Hindi film formula. Vijay Sahab. Rescuer is the hero, Yadon Ki Barat. We have Mr. Vijay Arora here, the hero of Yadon Ki Barat. So then victim is the heroine and persecutor is the villain. Now the point is, in interaction with people, if you want to be assertive, avoid taking any one of these roles, rescuer, victim or persecutor, because no matter what role you took while you got on the triangle, once you are on the triangle, the role will keep on shifting. You have no control as to what role you will get. Let me illustrate. I'll illustrate it from several things that you're familiar with. First one is the story of Ramayana. All of you familiar with the story of Ramayana? Yes. Thanks to Ramanand Sagar Sahab. You know, Valmiki Sahab gaye, Tulsidas ji Chandan घिस के गए, Ramanand Sagar ने सबको रामायण सिखा दे. So we take the Ramayana from the middle. Ram, Sita and Lakshman are in Panchavati. What are they doing? Banvas, which means Bombay language, time pass. 14 saal, 14 years of Banvas. Now if that is the story, that 14 years they spend in Panchavati and then come back and tell Bharat, give my chappals back, who is going to... Paduka wapas kar bhaiya, hum aa gaye. Who is going to listen to this? Is anybody going to read that? Tell me that. I am a student of literature, first and foremost. All my degrees are in literature. One thing I learned in my studies in literature, no conflict, no literature. Lafda mangta hai. So Ram, Sita and Lakshman are at Panchavati and story is not going anywhere. So Valmiki Dadi Kavi wonders, now what do I do to get the story? Some conflict. So he introduces a new character. Who comes on the scene? Nahi, lafda ke liye lady chahiye. No. So who comes? Ravan's sister. I am giving sloka by sloka from Valmiki. None of this is mine. Goes to Ram, he says, hey, I give you modern translation of this. You won't have an affair with me. Ram could have said, no, thank you. Ramayana would have ended. True or not? It is an assertive response. Ram says, listen, I'm married. It's not a bigger problem. It's not, because at that time it was a polygamous society. His father had 3 wives. Yes or no? Yes. So that is not the issue. Sita ji, my wife, is with me. Lakshman has left his wife at home. Would you consider him? She is a marketing person, Surpanaka. She goes to Lakshman, how about you? Given Lakshman's characterization in the Ramayana, who is a very pious and a nice person, he said, how dare you ask, into bracket in front of my brother?